we are the fastest growing continent. 1.3 billion people and growing. Out of that 1.3 billion, 70% is young people aged below 35 years. Besides that, we have a median age of 19 years, which essentially tells you the future is in Africa. We have a generation rising up on the continent that is viewing itself as a solution provider. Kenya has one of the fastest internet penetration rates. It is a highly dynamic market. Nairobi is known as the Silicon Savannah. A lot of significant innovations coming out of Nairobi. We're seeing innovations within healthcare, agribusiness, manufacturing. Kenya is the economic heartbeat for the region. Kenya is a country that has actually, stabilized. And so you now have an ecosystem that is very supportive of innovation.
In my work, I support engineering, but I'm not actually an engineer, I'm a scientist. By understanding the way that nature works, the way that materials come together, the way that they're constituted, it gives you the power to manipulate them because you understand why they behave the way they do and to convert them into the forms that are useful in the marketplace. Over 10 years. I always had an interest in technology in general. My father, his background is in economics, but he had this interest in being able to make things. And so very close to here, he had a small workshop that he set up. What he was doing is buying scrap brass and then smelting it and converting it into hot combs. People in this part of the world will remember, ladies especially used to straighten their hair using hot brass and put it onto a stove. When it's hot, you sort of comb your hair with it and it straightens it. That exposure was very influential in my future plans for my career. There are different types of engineers, different types of scientists. Some are more theoretical and some are more practical. Both are important. But our education system measures people's capacity on academics. My frustration was that some of those students were exceptional at making things and they didn't have that opportunity. And so I began quite quickly trying to create something that would allow them to have especially a greater exposure to the practical side of engineering. Gearbox is set up as a non-profit. People who have an idea for a machine or a product can come to make a prototype here. And then with a prototype, they can test the market. They can do a proof of concept and UX, user experience exercise, and that should enable them then to be able to raise money to start a company.
This is the Water Hub, a product of Water Hub Africa. This machine solves the problem of revenue collection at water points. All this data is being collected, and this is what all our clients will see once they log into this. For every country, it will actually give the cost in the currency of that country, and they can see all the transactions that are taking place in this machine.
Water shortage has been of a great concern in arid regions, especially the sub-Saharan part of Africa. So to cater for water shortages, we have to employ smart technology to help boreholes and remote water solutions to cater for calibration as well as serve the community effectively. Basically, this is the customer engagement unit. We have a screen and an NFC tag reader here. The button on my left is for dispensing water for the water bowser and the cattle. The button on my right is for the consumers who come to fetch in water from this point.
Once a customer comes, you place your card, then it just automatically starts fetching the water.
The number of tokens to be loaded on this tag determines the amount of water you're going to get when you come to dispense water from this point. The system gets its water from a borehole. The borehole is totally utilizing solar energy, so we pump water from the borehole, which uses its energy from the solar. The solar station is just ahead of you down here.
Gearbox sees itself as a factory of factories. We believe that we should be able to give people, particularly on the engineering side, whatever they need to develop a process, a machine, a product, and then go off and do it. There's a young man called Alela whose sister gave birth to a child who was born deaf. He was able to partner with a young lady called Chalmis who is an electronics expert, and together they created gloves that a deaf person would wear.
Sign.io is a sign language to speech translation glove that aims to extend the communication capabilities of individuals with a speech impairment. If I'm a deaf individual, I wear them, and as I make the various sign language signs, they're translated to speech in real time. The gestures are vocalized on your phone.
It's a glove of love because I have nieces who are 11 months old, and unfortunately they are born with a speech impairment.
You've seen what we can do at Gearbox, helping entrepreneurs go from an idea to a prototype to be able to test in the market. But what we're doing here is the next step. What happens when an engineer wants to create a product that will use technology to solve the problem that we're facing every day? He might be able to create the design, but when he wants to manufacture this at scale, he has to seek those resources overseas. That becomes time prohibitive, becomes cost prohibitive, and then prevents that solution from hitting the market. We are solving that problem by bringing world-class electronics manufacturing here in Nairobi, Kenya, to service the entire region.
We together created a joint venture here called Gearbox Europlacer that allows us to make circuits. And when COVID came, it found us in the middle of our feasibility study, and it became evident that there was something there. And so the factory set up.
So this is the start of the SMT line, where we apply solder paste to the bare PCB. And then the board will be automatically ejected into the next machine. It essentially will look like that. We can produce such a device at a rate of 700,000 to 800,000 devices a year.
What inspires me, basically, I'm a Christian, and I feel that there's an urgency for people to understand who Jesus Christ is. You can have the most industrialized country with all the beautiful technologies and so on, and still fail to make it to heaven. What's the value of what I'm doing if it's not critical to lives getting saved? I believe that this kind of setup for me is a way to access people and talk to them about faith. We train them, and as a very important part of the training is life skills. So we talk about culture, we talk about what we believe and why we believe it, values, and Jesus Christ, all this comes up. It was almost like providence, divine providence, that we should create this company. And it continues to grow, and we're very excited about the prospects as we look at trying to get to a point where we become a supplier of electronic circuitry for the region. There are many people who had a wonderful dream even when they were young, but never were able to develop it because the ecosystem failed them or whatever reason. I think it's never to lose hope, to understand that we're all here for a purpose. God gives us gifts and gives us something to bring to the world. And that if you just keep on believing and applying yourself through prayer and action, that there'll be some way that it will come to the surface. And you should learn how to be hearing God as well as possible.
What is the role of faith? For the longest time, there was, I think, a separation between faith and enterprise. But I see in myself and in the stories of many others a good mesh of the two. It is a space that God has called us to serve. And in that space, we are serving as co-creators with God. It is a place where we begin to understand that our calling first is to be believers. And then we are called to do entrepreneurship.